Yeah, well, you just nailed it. I had an example that I was watching a TED talk, after I sent you the notes this morning, and he gave a great example of, he quoted someone, Sean Godek, Goedeck. It was a brilliant quote. He used an analogy like in UI development. He was a UX developer, so his whole job was, as a software job, to make the UIs user friendly, and and we all love that, right? The iPhone is so popular because it's just so intuitive. You just know what to do, and they did a fantastic job there. But he gave a really good example of an unfortunate result of some of these UI designers is what they call a dark pattern, right? We've all sort of fell into this, but maybe we don't know what it's called. In other words, if I'm going to say, and he gave an example of, you're trying to check out, say you're trying to bring your family to the zoo, and there's a big, they're always looking for donations. So they have a big, green button that says check out and donate, right? And the big green button is what you would think, because it's pointing right. And there's another button that's pointing left that says check out without donating. And it's a button that's not very sexy, and it looks like it's going backwards. So by default, you click the green button that's just put in your face saying, check out and donate. Now it's only like $1 or 30 cents or something, right? But that was a pattern that they call a dark pattern, that just it was when they do all the A/B testing, all the users say, yeah, that looks better. Let's do that one. But they use that pattern to to basically force your workflow through the tool. So they're basically forcing the end result without, they're manipulating where you go through the tool, right? So okay, same, Amazon spends millions trying to figure out, how can I add to cart? Can I buy now? All the magic they do for the frictionless purchasing, right? All that stuff. Anyway, so he gave that as an example, and then brought the corollary to, the large language models. And he said, sycophancy is the first large language model dark pattern. So the large language model is basically telling you, great idea, Tim. That's exactly how you should be thinking. You're thinking right along the same lines. Continue thinking that way, and you want more recommendation. So, the dark patterns are now, evolving with the large language models, and I guarantee you, half of us don't even know that it's happening. And so that scares me. Then you add ads to that, and it's like, man, we're just going to be hacked, without even knowing it. And folks like you and I are just generally having these conversations because we're maybe weird. We enjoy this type of stuff. But the average person, I'm worried about that. I mean, anyway, I think those dark patterns are going to start evolving. And the incentives are just to keep you clicking, keep you on the platform. I don't know what we do here.
Well, let's get super dystopian with that. So have you heard of prompt injection?
Yeah.
Yeah. So essentially, it's like a nefarious method where, let's say I have a PDF. It's like my company, and in white text or little tiny fine print, I write a little prompt. So if you were to put that in AI, right, it would override your prompt and it would do what I want you to do, right? So if this person uses AI for a peer review summary, right? And actually, some researchers from MIT did this to prove it with their report, and everyone was no one actually read it. They just all threw it into ChatGPT, and they all got like, "Oh, this is a great research. You should definitely put it for peer review." All this stuff, right? And that's a little prompt injection. When algorithms run or dictate kind of our engagement and the way we think, right? We talked earlier, we're going to get into politics. We talked about democracy. Let's talk about elections, right? So during the last few election cycles, we've had issues of misinformation from both sides, right? How do you influence people? Well, you make shit up, you lie, you influence them with misinformation or misdirection. With these new AI algorithms that are so advanced at collecting behavioral data, you can influence or manipulate the direction that people start thinking, so that they start believing that their opinions are their own. And in the next few election cycles, we'll be seeing instances of cognitive prompt injection, where if you know how the algorithm engages, right, and companies have already figured it out, like what types of things does your son watch? Like what's fed to him, right? Well, if you feed that stuff to him, with just a little something extra, right?
Oh,
it's hard to find the attribution for that, right? So even if let's say I'm Russian and I want to influence a bunch of 12-year-olds, right? And they love watching videos of gamers, right? The way I frame that content could just be a little bit different because the algorithm's going to push that for engagement. And as long as it gets engagement, it's not really looking at if there's any kind of injection to influence the way someone thinks or their opinion. Do I have evidence of this? Not like explicitly, but I think we can see in social media the types of things that you see are often to influence you to behave a certain way or to think about a policy or a situation a certain way, right? So when I say a single point of failure, there can be a situation in the future where you have a country or a bad actor that wants to influence a mass amount of people to think about something a specific way. They no longer need misinformation. They just need to figure out how the algorithm works, what engages people, and how that works, and then start an influence campaign that way. And that's the danger of homogenization, right? That's the danger of a generation growing up offloading is you lose the capacity to audit output. You lose the capacity to understand what's happening to you. And I think it's our responsibility as parents or teachers or educators to make it clear that this can happen. And you, as a human being, are responsible. You have agency, right? You have responsibility to ensure that you are the decision maker in this loop, in this feedback loop.